Welcome to this session where we're going to look at the sweep command in closer detail. Sweep command can be found on the toolbar, this zigzag shape, or we can create and drop down to the drop down boxes and use the sweep command there. For the sweep command to operate, we need at least one profile and one path to sweep that profile along the path. So the first thing we're going to do is to go into sketch mode and create our path and our profile. So let's go into our sketch and create the path that we want to create a profile from. So first of all, we'll go into the sketch and we'll choose that one there. So we're now in sketch mode and we'll draw a path that we want. So we're going to make a section of pipe with a couple of bends on it. And there's our profile, our path that we're going to sweep the profile along. Next thing to do is to create the circle, which will be the cross section of the pipe to be flowed along the path, if you like. Now the easiest way of doing this is that the profile has to be perpendicular with the path. So if we go up to construct and choose plane along path and we click on the path, we can then put a plane on it. So we want to put the plane at the end of the path there. Next thing now is to place our profile on that plane. So again, sketch mode, select the plane, zoom in, and we'll do our circle there, and we'll finish the sketch. And then we've got a profile and a path. So now we use the sweep command by clicking on the sweep command button, which brings up our selection. We select the profile first, so there, then we move and select the path, and there's our pipe completed. The arrows either end, that allows us to extend if we want to, and the same with this one, or we can take it back and have it as long as we like by pulling the arrows. The arrows incidentally are reflected by these distance over here, that one and that one. Now the distance is the 0 is the left hand one and the 0.9 is the right hand one. The distances are not in millimeters, that's the distance along the pipe it is. So if we were to take that and take it all the way to 1, then we would see 1 up there. It's the ratio, if you like, along the pipe that the path moves. Now we're going to go back and let's just change the profile or the path a moment, so we've got some curves in it. So we'll go back and we'll change that sketch, that one, edit sketch, and let's put some fillets in there. We make our pipe round, finish the sketch, and then back into the sweep command, select the profile, which is there, select the path, which is there, and then we've got a curved, nice cornered pipe. Now a couple of things over here is that we can set anywhere we like. Now we've got a taper angle and a twist angle that I'll show you later on a different shape because it will make more sense. But let's look at the orientation a moment, the perpendicular orientation, or we can do parallel. Now if we do parallel, we find we have an error, it doesn't work. So let's try and see why it doesn't work. Well, one way of doing that is to take that position and draw it back along the pipe to the beginning, and then we suddenly see it's working, but it fails in this area. Now if you look closely at this, you will see that we're in parallel mode, and parallel mode means that the face that we're extending along the path is always parallel with the original profile. So as we come down the curve, it stays parallel. Now when it gets to the stage that the face is in line with the profile curve, it ceases because it can no longer calculate the geometry. And that you might want parallel face, but it is difficult if you're starting to go around curves where you end up in that situation. In perpendicular mode, what happens there is that the profile face always remains perpendicular with the path. Therefore it can be taken round corners successfully to the end. And I want to go in and we'll change the shape to a square so that I can show you something different. Let's go back into the sketch, and this time we'll take that out and we'll delete it, and we'll put a rectangle in its place, thus, and finish the sketch, and then we can now see the difference there. So what we'll do now is go into sweep again, and we select the body, the profile, and we select the path, and it follows the path quite nicely. Now let's look at the taper angle. The taper angle, if we put a taper angle of say 2 in there, what happens is it tapers then with an angle of 2 degrees, so it will get longer. Similarly, if we do minus 2 degrees, it will go the other way and will disappear long before it gets to the end. You can see it's disappeared to nothing in the one plane. So let's go back to naught. Now the other command that we have here is what we call a twist angle there. We'll put in say 25 degrees there, and we can see we've twisted it now, and we've got a 25 degree twist. Let's make that a 90 degree twist, and you can see it's twisted right the way round over the length of the path. Let's go back to our original path line now and see what happens if we put our profile somewhere along the path. So again, we go up to the construct, place path, and we'll place it say there and hit OK. And then on there now we're going to do a sketch. So we'll go sketch on that path, and we'll put our box in. The center point, by the way, the origin then that comes up when we've chosen that plane, will be the center line of the path. So we can safely draw our shape on there, finish, and we've got it on the path. Now if we go into the sweep command and we highlight the profile and we select the path, we can now drag it in both directions in that way. We can still use the sweep command. We can use the parallel command, but it will fail again because, as we said earlier, on the curves. So parallel on curves is not a good idea. Perpendicular, there it is, and again we can put in a twist angle of, let's say, 25 degrees, and we can see it will twist both ends. So now the center point is the profile. It will twist the left out 25 degrees, and it will twist the right out over 25 degrees as well. Same with the taper. If we put a taper angle in there of say 3 degrees, it doesn't like it because obviously it's too many, so let's take that back. Let's take the twist angle off. This is where you have to get used to the geometry of the thing. Now you can see we've got a taper on it. Some combinations of taper and angle won't operate because you're tapering and your angle and you're trying to intersect two geometries, as it were, that won't always work. So when you do get that error, normally you go back and you start to adjust these until you can get what you want. So what I want to look at now is a slightly different one as well, because if I go into edit feature, you can see up here now we've got some options here. Single path that we were looking at, and now we've got path along a guide rail. And what the path along the guide rail does, it allows us, if I just move them down a moment rather than redraw it all. So what we've drawn here, if I switch off the bodies, which I can't do, let me just go back to the sketches. So what I've got here is I have a sketch of a line there, typical of the front of a handle, and a sketch there, typical of the back of the handle. Excuse me. And the circle, which represents the cross section. Now, the important part here is that the circle must be joined to both points. Otherwise, it just doesn't work properly. If we then go into the extrude mode, what we've got there is the profile is selected, which is the profile down here. And then you select the path, which is this one. And then you select the guide rail, which is that one. So what you end up with that one is that if we do it to perpendicular to path, let's just take that back up again. So perpendicular to path, will end up with this shape. And you can see that the front of the object will follow the path and the back of the object follows the guide rail, and it doesn't reach the top. So to reach the top, you have to go into that one there and say full extents, and then it will go all the way up there. Okay, now there's one other one on here as well, which takes a bit of working out, and that's this bottom one here, the profile scaling. Let me zoom in a bit so we can see what's happening. So that's a stretch mode. That's a scale mode. As I say, this is where the eye comes in, because there's no measurements for this at all. It's just a different type of geometry, I suppose, really. Scale, stretch, and none. So none is where basically you're taking and ignoring the guide rail. To put the guide rail back in, you're stretching it to the guide rail, or you're scaling it to the guide rail. That's the path and guide rail. The analysis I'm not going to look at. I'll quickly show you because I haven't looked into them in detail and I don't know why we'd want to use them. But in the analysis now, you can switch on analysis, which allows you to analyze the path in different formats. I haven't worked out what they're for. I personally have not got a use for them. If anybody can come back to us at some stage with a useful purpose for them, then great. Excuse me. But at the moment, I'm going to leave them out. The final part of the sweep command is to show how we can sweep along an existing surface. So we've gone into sketch mode and we've created our profile, which is a circle, and then we've created our path, our main path, which is shown here in blue. Next thing to produce now is the shape that we're going to follow. So we've produced a curved block here, which will be the path that we will use to create the sweep. So the next job now is to hit the sweep command button, select the profile, select the path. But before we select the path, single path, we need to change the single path up here into path plus guide surface. So the path now, the main path is the center one up here, and then the guide surface, which we click on, will be this one here. So we can see now how the shape has followed the path but has been affected by the guide, which is given by this sweep surface on this block on the right hand side. It ends up with a rather weird shape, so it's of use, but it does take a bit of working out what the finished shape may be like. And that is the path using the guide surface here as a guide. And then one more final thing, just to show the complexity that the sweep command can work with. Done a profile here of a hexagon with an inner circle and a couple of cutouts on it. And then when we go into we've added a path, which we've shown there is the curve. There's the path we're going to follow. And then if we go into the sweep command and we highlight, we're just going to go to path and single path, and we highlight the profile, which is there, and we highlight the path, which is there, and we create new body perpendicular, OK, and that's the resultant figure. Let's switch off the sketch so we can see it a bit clearly. So you can see that the sweep command is extremely powerful, but may take a bit of getting used to because of some of the geometry restrictions that can occur and can throw out errors. But it is worth getting used to the sweep command, as it is an extremely useful command to have in your toolbox.